So you're saying, on the face of it, he's like, hey, we should all be able to interact and we shouldn't have to live in secrecy. But underneath that, he's also saying we should also be in charge and be able to tell these muggles what to do because we're better.
Right.
Because we're
And
wizards
actually,
of
that
magic.
makes him, so far, because we've seen exactly 30 seconds of screen time of him in the first movie.
It's a long 30
Slightly
seconds.
more interesting than Voldemort because we can understand his reasoning. Voldemort was a very black and white villain. And he's a fantastic villain, extremely intimidating and scary. And I think that was his point, is that he's supposed to be a very scary villain.
An enigma of fear.
Yes, much more abstract, down to his face. His face is losing its humanity. Grindelwald's a different story. Grindelwald has a very interesting point of view that that he wants something more insidious than what he is preaching.
Right. It is interesting because it's hard when you look at Grindelwald's face in the trailer anyways. It gets paler and his hair is white and he looks more
His hair is white. I think that's his
dangerous.
natural hair color, but you see an eye is kind of screwy.
Yeah.
So I think he's had some
Magical rearrangement.
rearrangements, experimentation, same way Voldemort did. He's just not as far along as Voldemort is. But he still has a certain humanity because he has had a relationship with Dumbledore.
Right. Oh,
Not a romantic one. A lot of people think they did. No, and it's not true. Grindelwald knew that that Dumbledore was in love with him and used him to take advantage of that, but never returned affection.
Yes. He kept the flame lit so he could light things on fire.
Right. That's great. Look at you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
With the similes.
It was interesting watching the video. I was curious to see what your reaction would be on how Grindelwald is different from Voldemort.
Yeah.
And I think that hits the nail on the head. Voldemort is this very enigmatic fear, especially in the first 3 books when Harry's mostly in school. Voldemort, you can't even speak his name. You know what I mean? It's like people are afraid to even talk about the problem. Whereas Grindelwald, people can talk about him and he seems like he's already been incarcerated and it's not like there's a big stigma around him.
Right.
But I think that's what makes him more dangerous, is that people don't take him as seriously as they should.
Right.
And then when he starts to do these crazy things that are actually upsetting the balance of power, that's when people are like, oh man, we should have taken this guy much more seriously.